Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. In each episode, I will engage with leaders who are sharing authentic stories that support impactful influence. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. You will gain insights from leaders who face the same challenges you may encounter and discover strategies to navigate them with resilience and purpose. What happens when strategy meets soul in the heart of healthcare? You get Jeannie Virden. As Chief People Officer for Central Health, Jeannie isn't just shaping HR, she's rewriting the playbook on purpose-driven leadership. With 15 plus years in the trenches and a passion for culture that actually means something, she brings grit, grace, and a people-first punch to every decision. Today, she's pulling back the curtain on resilient leadership, hard calls, and what it really takes to elevate the employee experience. If you're seeking healthy leadership engagement in an open, empowering, and authentic environment, then you're in the right place. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Well, welcome to a fresh episode of the Cultivate Experience. I am thrilled today to have a dynamic, people-driven leader join us on the show. Jeannie Virden, Chief People Officer for Central Health. Jeannie, we are thrilled to have you join us for the Cultivate Experience.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited for today's conversation.
Well, and you and I had some fun in the green room conversation already. Just, what you've given us fun to look at in your background. Yes, I brought that up right away because we're going to have an exciting time today, really digging into your why, how that's playing out with your work, and just leaving us with some really key jewels. And I know that they will because I've already been inspired. So now that our listeners are as fired up as I am, there's no doubt that this time is just going to fly by. So we're going to jump in. Jeannie, you believe that leadership is an action and not a position. And I just want us to lean into that. Share the foundation of that why. Like, where did that come from for you? And how does it directly impact the work with Central Health that you're doing and its mission?
Thank you very much for having me again. I'm very excited for this conversation. And yes, I firmly believe that leadership is an action and it's not a title. Anyone in their role can be a leader, and the way that they do that is leading by example. And so really leaning into leadership, it really talks about how you're supporting your team, okay, your colleagues, your peers, your leader, anybody who reports to you, whatever your sphere of influence is, that to me is leadership. And I love my position at Central Health. I love our mission. We provide healthcare for the uninsured and underserved residents of Travis County, right? So healthcare is a mission-driven industry anyway, but really our patients really need us. I lean so much into the mission, and I love the people who are doing the work. I love our frontline staff, but I also love the administrative support team members as well. They're the ones who are helping make that reality possible. And so again, that's my why. And that is, again, no matter what position you're in, you can be a leader, lead by example, follow through with what you say.
Oh, and you left us with that. Follow through, right? And I love that you right off the bat spoke out. It's not about the title. Really, leadership, as we know, is influence. And you spoke of that influence being across those that are looking to you, but those that you are managing and leading up to, right? And so you went in all directions with that, which really put a leveling field on what leadership is. I'd love for you to dig in and share with us some personal convictions or experiences that really fuel this mission-driven approach that you have in HR, and how that's like formulated over the years.
Absolutely. So I actually started my career in education. So that's really where I started off. I started off at the high school level. I was a business teacher, and I love learning. and I love teaching, and I love giving people the knowledge and the skills to be able to go and do what they want to do, right? So they need the knowledge and schools, the knowledge and skills to be successful, you know, in real life,
Hmm.
just to handle their day-to-day business. They also need it for what they want to do and what they're inspired to do for their work and what they're inspired to do if they do any kind of volunteer or community service. So that's really where I started in my career. Transitioned into healthcare business, and then to healthcare HR. And I love the connections that I was able to keep moving into HR, and really being able to continue to support the people in so many different ways, including education. And really, I come from a place where I want to have meaningful work. I want my work to mean something to me and to know that I'm making an impact. So whether it was in education or whether it's in healthcare, I know that what I do makes an impact for my community. And, I don't begrudge anybody who goes into things, for the money, the for-profit sector and all of that. I did do a stint in that, and I just realized I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the company. I enjoyed the people, but there was a missing part, and I needed to
Hmm.
go back into something that was more mission driven for me to be able to connect and to really be happy and to really be my best self at every level.
Wow. I mean, the holistic approach that you have really just laid out so plainly, right? Everything being so purpose driven. And I have to say that it's been really interesting to speak to you, but then other colleagues in HR that have also had beginnings in education. I think there's a link there as far as that. We've got to learn. There's always more to learn. That life learning space and how that directly translates to the work that you're doing in human resources and people, in empowerment. And also when you talk about it in the high pressure space of healthcare. I mean, we don't have enough time on the show to get into all the aspects and the challenges that you're walking through in the industry specifically, but we know it's a high pressure space. And then you talk about the mission that you're walking out within the organization for those who are already underserved. So I have to believe that pressure comes with a lot of burnout, turnover, and running that high risk of the people doing the work, just taking it so personally. How do you stay grounded in that people first leadership? And how does that speak out into the team that you're leading?
So thank you for the question. That is absolutely a very valid point, right? And I think that no matter what the role is that you have to take care of your own well-being. And that
Mm,
looks so different for so many different people. And I think for me as a leader, I need to take care of my own well-being. I need to, again, lead by example. And I need to encourage my team to take care of their well-being, whatever that looks like for them, and to be able to support that. Right. And when I talk about well-being, I'm talking about physical, I'm talking about mental, but I'm also talking about your financial well-being,
mm,
those all the holistic well-being aspects of it. And I cannot and I do not, force anyone to say, take care of your well-being by doing X, Y, and Z. It's what do you need from me? What do you need from me today? And what do you want in order to take care of yourself? They come to me and they say, I need a week's vacation. Absolutely. You go do that. What do we need to do to make sure that you can take that week? No one will bother you, including myself. You know what I'm saying? So that you can go and focus on what you want to do. And whether you go on, a vacation, whether you do a staycation, whatever that time means to you, that's what I need to do to support. And so again, I need to support that, but I also need to lead by example and be a good, leader for my team so that they know it's okay. If they're seeing me work 24/7, I don't want them to feel, well, if she's working 24/7, I don't feel like I can take time off. Um, you
yeah.
know, and whether I do or not, I still want them to take time off, but I know I have to lead by example on that one.
Well, and I appreciate you really speaking out that tension because there's a lot to get done, right? When we talk, when we think about the day-to-day operations, and then of course those that we're serving and the needs that aren't just cookie cut. You're talking about individual, real needs that are happening to those that you serve. Those same needs are for those that are that are working alongside you in the organization, and life is not linear, right? So you're absolutely right. If they're getting emails from you at 3 a.m., we all love the scheduler, because it's got to get out. Then, do they feel like they can say, hey, I really need to take this buffered time because of XYZ? So I appreciate you saying that tension is there. What I'm hearing from you, and this is what we say in relational leadership, and what is the key: high challenge. We have a heavy mission, a deep mission, high support. I'm here for you. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can do this together. And I think that that's the piece that, we can be encouraged in hearing, because I know there's so many leaders who are like, is that really a real thing? Can we do that? Yes, we can. So thank you for speaking that out, and with such authenticity. So what does it mean to you to authentically embody an organization's core culture and values, and then translate that in the real HR work strategies that have to take place?
So I think for me to really embody the core values, one, I have to believe in the organization. I have to believe in the mission, right? I have to understand what the values are and how
Mm,
the core values of the organization relate to my core values as a person and as a leader. And then I think that once I can do that and I reconcile it all together, then it's really easy to be authentic and to lead, and to show those core values, both the company's core values and my core values. I think, I spoke a little bit ago about being in an organization that was more for profit. So again, believed in the mission, believed in the company. But, some of those core values, as I got into the organization, I realized weren't always aligned. And that's why I decided I needed to move to another position for my own sense of purpose, for my own sense of self, so that I could be successful. And that's one of the reasons, right? I needed to be able to make sure that I was completely aligned with what I was doing, and to be effective, right? I think that's the most important thing. So that's why I love the organization I'm at. I love what I do. And it's very easy for me to say, this is who I am authentically as a person, as a leader, and how I align with the overall organizational mission, vision, and values.
and you just hit on some really key points on bringing that out at the beginning, up
Mhm.
front, right? So I have to imagine in that interview process, onboarding, like this is not something that's hidden, or core values that are just, hanging on the wall, but that we talk about it, bring it into team meetings to be able to live it out. Because when we're having those conversations of, are we aligned? What am I aligned to? Do we know? Is it
Mhm.
something that's a living, breathing, actual, not just document in a file someplace, but that we breathe this out and live it out in our day to day? And I appreciate how you really highlighted that, and not as a burden, because I do feel that at times we do talk about our those values as things that we have to do, right? They're the things we've got to carry along, and not what is actually giving us the energy and empowering us to do the mission. So really appreciate that. I think that directly speaks into where I'd like to go next, is that means that you're building trust, right? With your team, with those that you're serving, community that you're serving, but also with your leadership, right? And you're a part of that leadership team making those strategic decisions. So walk through, because that trust is going to take us to a space, as we all know, it's not always daisies and birdies chirping, the tough times, right?
Right?
When you have to lead through what is resistance, and sometimes not as clear, right? Ambiguity. What has it taught you in walking through this high challenge, high support, this relational leadership space, to get you in and through on the other side of resistance and ambiguity?
So I think a lot of times when we hear resistance, we hear something that comes, the first thing that comes to mind, right? That's what they say. But that's not usually what they're resisting or why they are
Mm,
resisting. So I
mm,
think first and foremost, it's to, pause the conversation, say, I hear what you're saying. Let's dig into this a little bit more. and to really understand the underlying resistance, right? They're going to say something like, "Well, I just, I don't want a new computer. I don't want to learn something. I like my computer the way it is, right? Okay, but why do you like it? If I were to remove that computer, what are you going to miss the most about it? Okay, and so really digging into what that is, and then trying to walk through how this change will either help or it might hinder, right? But how we can talk through about how best to support them. Change is hard. Change is
Mm,
very hard, but the only thing that is constant is change. We always hear that, right? So I think that's, really, I think it's really to take the time and to listen and not just say, well, we're going to do it, just get on board. It's no, okay, let's understand, why are you truly resistant? How do we support you through this? And how can we, um, get you, what you need to get to the other side and to be a champion for this. And, I'm going to be really honest. We know there are times when that doesn't work.
mm-hmm.
And there are times when the change is just too much, and we have to make a personal choice as to whether or not we can be a part of that change, or not. And unfortunately, I've been in situations where people have decided that they cannot be a part of that change, and we've had to, unfortunately part ways. But that's okay as well, because everyone has to be on board to a certain degree for it to be successful. And if they're not going to be happy and they're not going to embrace it, and they would be more successful and happy somewhere else, then I'm going to help them in every step possible in order to do that. Because, again, if we were all the same, if we all acted the same, we wouldn't have all the fun that we have.
We would not. How boring would that be?
Right?
No, right? But I so appreciate that you just highlighted the self-select and that it's not a bad thing. So if you as a leader can create clarity out of that ambiguity, but you did that with curiosity. And anyone who knows and has interacted and engaged with me, and I know I've got listeners out there who've actually been on my team. That's an area that I continuously have to be intentional in. I think we all do, but I recognize that as a space of, okay, you really are, you're telling me, I can see what it is that you're doing. You're showing me your why, or why you're acting. No, I actually have to pause and ask the question. And that's something I've had to grow in. And that's what I'm hearing from you. You paused, you dug in deeper, but there had to be enough trust there that was built from what we've talked about for them to give you that real answer. And then to become to that place, yeah, this isn't going to work. I really am not aligned in. That's not something I can come on board with. And what did you say? I'm going to still support you in that transitioning, making that selection, that self selection out to transition well, to finish well for you and for the organization. What a gift that you are actually continuing to hand over to those that you've been working alongside. And I think that that's some of those things that we tend to gloss over, and we really need to spend more time in. So I really appreciate how you brought that out, because for the work that you're doing, right? Those that you're serving, you want the best for them. That's the
Absolutely.
way the mission is the most successful. So when we're stepping into that space, that takes us to that place of, okay, what we're doing is not just for us, right? It is always to pay it forward, to move forward with it. That is leadership, influence, how we're doing that, you know? So that development space, and bringing that to a place of excellence. When you think about developing that next generation, right? We are in a place right now, 5 generations in the workplace, first time ever. How does that look in the health with healthcare leaders? Does it really any different, those challenges? What do you believe right now we're getting right? And what do you think that we need to really reimagine and do some things different in with all of these generations?
Um, Absolutely. So I think, first of all, um, let's start with what we're getting wrong. Let's start there. I firmly believe that we are not investing enough in development in our team members, no matter what generation they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that is, the first thing we hear a lot. We don't have the money. We don't have the time. I can't let go of the work. I can't, set aside the space for that. So I think that's one thing that we're getting wrong. I think the other thing is that we do it in such a way that, and it's coming from a former educator, I understand this, right? It's a one size fits all approach. And we know that learners are not one size fits all, learners. So I think
Absolutely.
that that's another difference. I think those who are getting it right are the ones who are investing in it. I think they're also the ones who are investing in individual solutions, right? They have a global curriculum or framework, if you will, but then they're allowing those leaders and those team members to develop in their own way, using different modalities and different tools to be able to do that. I think those that are getting it right are leaning into AI.
Mm.
I know everyone's kind of scared of that, but I've been actually looking at, some development tools that are leaning into that AI space. And I think that especially for our younger generation who have grown up with computers and who embrace that, that's going to be key and critical. But then I think that for maybe someone who is from my generation, Gen X, right? I may like that in-person learning or that one-to-one coaching, and we need to be able to do that. So that's my take on development. And I think that that's true in healthcare, but I also think that's probably true in most industries. And I think the other thing, and I'll just end on this, is that as we're talking about AI, I don't think we're doing enough to tell to educate our workforce that we've already heard this, but AI is not going to replace you as a person, but the people who use AI are going to replace you if you don't embrace it. And I
Mm.
think that what we need to educate them on is that, again, it's not going to do the work for you. There's no substitute for what we
For
bring,
human.
right? As a human being, as a person with feelings and with thought. It's really how we use the tool and really level up and let you work at your highest level and take those administrative tasks off. That's what AI should do, right? I don't need to answer a question about where do I find the benefits guide. AI can do that. I need to be educating them on what our benefits are and how they can utilize them and how it best fits them. And again, what's that well-being approach to our benefit plan? So that's the difference for me with regard to that.
Wow, gosh, we could just do a whole episode there. I mean, you spoke that out so well, and you know what? I knew that we were kindred spirits. Go Gen X. You
Right.
know, there are those places and spaces where even at this stage, I'm recognizing how I learn. Like, what's that space that I do my best in when it's new information to garner, and what makes it sticky for me, and that's different for my colleague, right,
Mm-hmm.
who grew up, like you said, in a different generation, and not just a generation, but how our brains are wired, how we tick, how we work. And so when you say AI is a tool, and again, listeners out there who know me well, this is a space that I'm like, the tension is still there for me because I'm so relationally driven. I don't want that to go away. I want to sit and interact and engage and hear what I'm hearing from you, especially in the role that you're in. That open door policy that HR has, that people sometimes roll their eyes. And I just have to remind everyone, sometimes the door has to be closed to get the work done for you. But for you to have that door open, you got to take some of that admin off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a more efficient way to get that done, then we can have that in person that AI is never going to do. They're not going to
Absolutely.
be that space. So I love how you really, a good story, how you told that story and brought that narrative to life for us, in that space. We've done a lot in our conversation to celebrate, and even you crafted that last conversation of, hey, let's start with the what we're not doing right. And I love that. Let's eat the elephant one bite at a time, but let's start with the toughest pieces. So there are some tough spaces, right? Not every leadership win is easy, clean, or straightforward. I want you to think, and you may not have to go back too far. What's a tough decision that you had to make that left a mark, and what on you? And what did it actually teach you about how to lead with courage and care?
There are so many decisions I've had to make that have left a mark. I hope, to choose just one, oh my goodness. Um, but I think, when we have to make those decisions, um, first and foremost, I think that it's important for everyone to recognize that you made the decision thoughtfully. So it
Mm.
wasn't just something that you woke up that day and said, I'm going to wreck someone's world by doing whatever, right? And it was done thoughtfully. There was a reason that topic came to me to make a decision, or to the executive team as a whole in a collective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the decision isn't mine alone. And there's a reason that we have to address, and we're doing that. And then again, if everything in life was roses and rainbows, I mean, that would be great actually. But at the same time, there's always change. There's new things coming. There's new problems to solve. And sometimes all of that combined comes with those decisions that are tough to make and tough to execute. And usually being in the people department, we're the ones executing. And those really tough decisions are the ones that I have to execute. And so when they are looking at me and when they're looking at my department about that, I want them to not reflect on the team. I want
Mm.
them to know that I was the one that made the decision. I'm the one that executed it. That's, to me, it's very inauthentic if I make the decision and then make my team go execute it. And they're the ones that are getting the backlash when it was my decision. So I think that's really what I've learned. And again, I think that's being the authentic leader. I made the decision. I have to execute. I made the mistake. I'm going to own the
To
mistake.
own it.
I'm not going to blame my team. Nope, this is completely on me. I made that mistake. So I think that's what I've learned.
Well, and those are marks, like you said, there are many that you can pull from. Those are lasting, and that builds what we were talking about not too long ago, but that trust space for someone to come in and be that authentic then with you to say, "Hey, I didn't handle this well," or "Goodness gracious, I said this and I did this," right? And so to really be able to own our stuff is so important, and that is a place of influence. That's a place of leadership that unfortunately isn't often enough highlighted of how important that is. What I heard from you, and you said it early on in that dialogue, was the intentionality. Nothing's just by happenstance, or I threw it up against the wall and let's see what stuck. There was an intentionality in how we had to walk this out, and including others in the conversation. So I really appreciate you digging into that hard, and those, like we said, those places that can bring that tension in the work that we do. All right, it's hard to believe, but we're coming around the bend and going to be wrapping things up here. But I want to ask this really kind of tough question. Have you found yourself at odds with what, and you're in this space, what the data tells you versus what your gut is yanking at you with your people needs that you have? And how do you navigate that crossroad?
Yes. So data tells a story, right? And sometimes it tells a story that doesn't seem to align
Mm,
with what we're hearing. And actually, it's funny you say that because I asked for some data from my team, and when it came back, I was like, well, that's interesting because what I'm hearing is X, but what the data is showing is Y, right?
yeah.
And so I think you have to really just, one, what are you looking for? What are you trying to solve? And how much of that data is accurate, right? So part of it is we have a 75 or 80% engagement score. Yay. Where everyone's all excited. But if I only have 25% of the people responding, right? I have to take that into consideration when I'm hearing
Yes.
that maybe people aren't engaged. So
Yeah.
I think that you have to look at the data as not just what the results of the data are, but how we got there. Is it complete? Is it accurate? Does it have a true representation of the people that we're trying to survey? And if it doesn't, then I think you take a blend of what the data says and what
Mm,
you're hearing, and you have to craft strategies to address both. Um, so I think that's really what it is. And if it's completely opposite and your data is valid, then I think, again, you got to go, huh, why is it different? And maybe the data is valid for the way that I asked it or the way that I retrieved it. So maybe I need to go back and ask the questions differently and see if it still is the same. So I think that there's different ways of approaching it. I don't think, again, just like AI, I don't think data can replace gut intuition and what you're hearing on the front line. So it's got to be a perfect blend, and that's when you as the person have to be very intentional about what you're doing and how you're looking at it globally and holistically.
I love that. Oh gosh, what a way to pull that together, right? It's not one or the other, it's that both and how important they are, and to be able to say, "Wait, let's look at this again. Maybe we need to ask it in a different way," right?
Hmm.
Maybe that method, but making sure that we don't lean one way or the other or toss something out as, "Well, that must just be bad," or, "Oh, the data is the end all be all." What a great way for us to wrap things up today and leaving us with that challenge, because that's really, I think that's what you've done is you've charged us with, don't take anything for granted. You've definitely spoken out how important it is for all of us to, as leaders, continue to be in that learning space. I say this often, I belong in every room that I am in, most importantly for what I need to learn. That is the first and foremost thing of why I'm in the space. All right. I want the people that are engaging our audience to be able to get a little bit of a fun look into who you are. So here's the thing.
Okay.
Let me get this from you. Your morning routine. What is a must-have that has to happen in your life?
A must-have is a really good cup of coffee.
Now, is that at home or you got to get that out somewhere?
Either or. I will take it as
Okay.
long as it's a good cup of coffee. I will do it at home. I will go get it. Sometimes it's a 2 cup a day, and it might be at home and then somewhere else. So it
Nice.
just depends. But that is a definite must have.
Nice, nice. Okay, and your team will know if that hasn't happened. So how will your team describe your leadership style if they only had one word?
Um, if they only had one word, I hope that they would describe it as authentic.
Well, from what I have experienced in our time together, I can't see it any other way. But because that's exactly what comes across in all of our conversations. What do you see is your leadership superpower?
My leadership superpower is, again, leading with authenticity, and then leading with information. I tell my team all the time, I
Mm,
will tell you what I know. And if there are times when I know something and I can't tell you, I will be honest with you and say, I'm not able to discuss this at this moment, but when the time is right, we will come back and revisit that. So I think, and again, following through on what I said, and if that means, you know, I'm going to help you with this project, I'm going to help you with this project, or whatever that looks like. So those are I can't just pick one. I think, the combination of that is my superpowers.
love it, love it. Okay, really important, almost as important as coffee. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Oh man, you know what? That's winning. That's winning in the survey. I'm just saying. I hear that more than any. Okay. And we're in that season, so it's time to enjoy.
Absolutely.
What fills your cup outside of the work?
What fills my cup is my family, especially my granddaughter. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, I love my husband. I love my 2 children. I love, their significant others. But my granddaughter has just brought a fresh new light, and it just reminds me of being a mom, but without all of the responsibilities. All the fun, no responsibilities. So,
I love it. I love it. Well, that's how I sit in aunt life. I love being the cool, fun aunt. We do the things, and
yeah,
then you go home.
that's right. That is exactly right.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, Jeannie, this has been such a rich, rich conversation. Your heart for people poured through the screen, over the airways. Your honesty around hard moments gave us a lot to reflect on, to chew over, and to really be better in. I just know for those that are listening, if they want to learn more about you, but if they want to also learn more about the work that you're leading at Central Health, I want you to give us that best way to connect.
Absolutely. The best way to connect is usually on LinkedIn. You can find me. My last name is Virden, V as in Victor, Irden. But you can also email me at jeannie.virden@centralhealth.net. Happy to connect with anyone and have a conversation.
Jeannie, it has been a pleasure. And I know that your inbox is going to get full because you have filled us today. You inspired excellence today, my friend. And thank you so much for sharing your story, providing a glimpse into your relational leadership journey and the passion that you have for people and in engaging and empowering them. It's been an energizing conversation and such a pleasure.
Thank you, Wendy. It's been a pleasure to have the conversation with you. I had so much fun.
So wonderful. Okay, Cultivate collaborators, you know where we are. It's a wrap for today, but remember, each of us, we bring our own special flavor to the mix of relational leadership. So until next time, let's keep stirring things up, making an impact, and being better together. Thanks so much. Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, asking for a friend, or interested in being a guest on the show, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivateforgood.com. Remember, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together.